Hey everybody, I know it's been a while since I've done an individual review. Lately I've been posting video versions of the Find Your Film podcast, which I am 1/3 of. The other 2/3 are Greg Strzavasty of Deepest Dream or Find Your Scene. Those are his two websites. He publishes written and video reviews, and also Eric Holmes. Right below in the comment section of this video, I will have the link to Find Your Film, our podcast, which you can find on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, all over the place. So check that out. We put that out once a week. It's going to usually include somewhere from 8 to 10 recommendations. Some are old, some are new. Usually we start each episode with a group review of a newer movie that's just coming out or about to come out. That we can all kind of cover together, and then we bring other things to the table that we have been watching in the last week. So you can always find lots of reviews there, and I'm going to try to supplement that by getting back to my individual reviews, probably try to get you at least 2 a week. So that's kind of my goal. So right now I'm going to bring you a review of the brand new movie by David Fincher called Mank. Now Mank is short for Mankiewicz, for Herman Mankiewicz. Now, of course, David Fincher has been doing a ton of great movies, I don't know, for 30 years now, maybe even a little bit more. A couple of my favorites of his are Fight Club, of course. Seven is an all-time favorite. I really like Zodiac, and a lot of his other movies are really solid too, so really good movies he's been making throughout the years. But Mankiewicz is kind of a special one. Now it's dropping on Netflix. It just dropped yesterday. We were lucky enough to get advanced screeners and watched them earlier in the week, but this is when I'm finally getting around to my individual review. Now, Herman Mankiewicz is the main character, played by Gary Oldman. Of course, Gary Oldman's awesome. We all know that. We also have Marion Davies, played by Amanda Seyfried. Marion is famously the love interest of Randolph Hearst, who of course was the basis for Citizen Kane. That's the basic idea of this movie. It is kind of how Citizen Kane was written by Herman Mankiewicz. But even more so, it's kind of about Herman Mankiewicz and kind of his life in and out of the studio system, and kind of all the politics within there, and all of the strange ins and outs of that scene, and what it was like back in those days to be part of that system. A few other actors that are in here, and this is a pretty stacked cast, are Arliss Howard as Louis B. Mayer. You've got Charles Dance as Hearst, and you've got Ferdinand Kingsley as Irving Thalberg. Now, how to describe this movie? First of all, if you are a huge fan of, classic golden era Hollywood, if you, love Citizen Kane, if you like the old studio movies, if you're a history buff of that era, this movie is going to really draw you in. If you aren't, it's going to be a tough one to start. It is very, very dense. You basically, in the first 45 to 50 minutes, you're going to meet all these characters kind of through flashbacks and through present tense, and kind of how Herman Mankiewicz kind of encounters all of them. And he's this kind of sardonic, he's a little bit of an iconoclast, but he's also a bit of a, he's a drunk, and everyone kind of thinks he's kind of a cool guy to have around, but he's also kind of making tons of remarks, and he's constantly undercutting the scene with his remarks that are so fast and regular in this movie that you could miss a lot of them, especially if you don't know what all of the asides and jokes that he is making are about, or who they're about. You have to kind of almost do a history lesson to figure out what's going on. So for the casual moviegoer, it may be frustrating for the first 45 minutes or so, because you're just kind of following Herman Mankiewicz as he's meeting all these characters who, as the movie goes on, are going to all come together and how the story plays out. So if you have the patience, you can really get a lot out of this movie, and it can really pay off in the end. It's a beautiful movie. It's a very smart movie. It's stunning. It's got great acting by Gary Oldman, of course, and Amanda Seyfried, and pretty much anyone in the cast. And the production is just stellar. But what I think was most surprising to me is that it has so many layers that as you start to kind of sink into the world and it kind of seeps into you, and you kind of become accustomed enough to it to understand who all the players are, you allow yourself to kind of become part of that world, it really starts to work its magic on you, and the rhythms of the language and the dialogue and the kind of interesting and strange surroundings. You got San Simeon, which is the Hearst Castle, and you've got, old-time Hollywood sets, and you've got all these things going on. But as you start to sink into that world, it really can kind of become magical. So in the long run, I think this is a really rewarding movie for those who give it the chance and who really can let the world kind of envelop you. If you already kind of are steeped in that history and steeped in that world, I think it's going to be easy for you right out of the gate to just love it. If you aren't, I'd say give it a chance, unless your thing is, if all your stuff is Marvel and just super accessible, entertainment movies only. Now, I love those too, but if that's only the things that you like to watch, this probably isn't going to be for you. This is probably going to bore you to tears. But if you are interested in movies and movie making and writing and history and, the golden age of Hollywood, you'll probably find that you will slowly but surely fall in love with this movie. And I think it's going to have a great degree of rewatchability, because once you kind of get the story under your belt, if you watch it again, you'll be able to actually notice all the crazy and hilarious little touches in the dialogue and all the stuff that Herman Mankiewicz is saying throughout. He's constantly commenting and making remarks that you're going to eventually be able to really sink your teeth into once you kind of know the basic bones of the movie. Kind of in a way like Big Lebowski or some other Coen Brothers movies, where once you get past the plot, you actually just want to spend the time with the characters, and the fun really becomes the interactions and the strange scenes in themselves. And this movie has tons of scenes on their own that are very entertaining. So I would highly recommend Mank to Fincher fans and movie fans for sure. Everyone else I would give a somewhat reserved recommendation to. I would say if it seems like it's not your cup of tea, maybe, I'd say give it about 30 minutes. And if you're not feeling it, you're probably not going to. But everyone else, I say, give it a go. All right, I'll be back soon with another movie.